Foo-foo, you have stuff all over your face, honey. Y'all, I don't know if you know, I got a bunny. The ones that follow me, I got a bunny. It is the best pet ever, just FYI. Amazing pet. I got it for my 4-year-old daughter. She'd been asking for a bunny for a year, but actually it was really meant for me. I just didn't know at the time, but she just hopped out and she had like stuff all over her face. All right, well, hello everyone. We are doing our interview with Hillary, and I see that she is on right now, so I am going to bring you in. Let's see here. All right. There she is.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm so good. You look beautiful.
Thank you. So do you. We're going to give a few minutes for people to hop on.
Sure,
Hello, everyone. Joining.
Hi,
We are going to do our interview with Hillary. Alexa, turn off. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Thursday. Let us know where you are joining from. Drop a heart down below. Let us know your city or your state. Let us know how your Thursday's been. It's been good. Meh. If you have any prayer requests, we can definitely do that as well.
Yes. I would love to pray over those. I know Michelle would too. I'm super excited because I'm in Kentucky. And Michelle's on another side of the country, basically. And it's a really cool story how we connected. Maybe we'll talk about that now or another time.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it, girl.
Okay, so I guess I'll just start. So I am a licensed therapist, and I also do EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And I had seen some of Michelle's content, some of her stories, and I'm like, I want to connect with this woman. She's beautiful, and I love her story, and I love what she's doing, and she's just the light in this world. And so I literally just, I don't even remember. I guess I reached out to you first, Michelle, and I'm just like, I would really love to connect with you. I want to hear your story. I want to hear about your experience with certain types of therapy. And so we connected and just kind of went from there, and it's been a joy to connect with her. And then now we're here this evening.
Now we're here. It's been a joy to connect with you too. I swear our first conversation, we could have just kept going and going.
It was sure.
Like we
Our
knew
first
each other.
Conversation, I think we carved out like an hour to talk.
Yeah, and we didn't even talk about what we were going to talk about.
We didn't. We just started talking about everything else, and we were like, okay, well, we can get back together at the end of the week. And we did. And then it just kind of kept going from there.
Yes. So the original thing that Hillary was reaching out to me about was EMDR, which is what she specializes in. And so, yeah, EMDR therapy. What does that stand for again, Hillary?
It's eye movement. So that's the EM, eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's a really, really fancy way to say that we use eye movements or some sort of bilateral stimulation, activating both sides of the brain to help you desensitize and reprocess trauma.
Yes. And this is something that I personally started in my journey. It's been about a year, maybe. So that was something that basically I got to a point in my healing journey where I had worked through all of this stuff. I'd done all the emotional part, all the talking it out and everything for years, for like 9 years. But then I got to a point where I was still dealing with nightmares, panic at times,
flashbacks, that type of thing.
Flashbacks,
yeah,
especially flashbacks. And people that have been through abuse, you understand what that means and how that can be very debilitating. So I was like, I need to figure out a way to deal with this. I had heard of the EMDR, and it's been very great for me. I mean, I have definitely noticed a difference. And what my EMDR therapist does is we just do the ones where you hold the little buzzers. Yeah. So she'll like bring you, to your safe place, and then you start, and it's been really, really successful for me. So that is how it all started. And I definitely look forward to hearing more about like what brought you to that. So first of all, introduce yourself, give us a little idea of what you do, who you are, and what you're going to be speaking to us about tonight.
Okay, so my name is Hillary Bacon. I am a licensed clinical social worker, so I'm a fully licensed therapist. That actually just happened. I just got my full license. I'm a doctoral candidate as well at the University of Kentucky, so I'm in the middle of that right now too. And I study and practice with people who have eating disorders, and then I also do EMDR therapy. So those are the two things that I really try to hone in on. I treat a variety of issues. However, if someone comes to me with a challenge or an issue and I'm not sure that I can help them, I'll definitely refer them to somebody else, because not every therapist is for every person. And I kind of do have my niche and the place where I feel most comfortable helping people with certain issues. And a lot of that is eating disorders and trauma. So I am a therapist by day, a student by night. And yeah, I'm 28 years old, so I'm under 30. I'm still building, still learning, still looking for new experiences and wanting to add more things under my belt.
That's awesome, girl. And what I admire is what you just said, was that you understand that you have your niche, and you are humble enough to realize that, you know, if you need to recommend somebody else, you'll do that. And I think a lot of therapists need to keep that in mind, because I believe that there are certain things that God calls us to do and certain things that we're not called to do, and we might not know how to handle. So I love that you said that. That's very awesome.
That is the most ethical and professional thing to do, for sure. You know, if somebody comes to me seeking therapy for an issue that I honestly just don't know enough about, or there needs to be a specialized training. And to be honest, I feel like eating disorders is one of those areas. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about what I feel I can offer my field in the area of eating disorder treatment, is because I feel like I'm equipped. There's a lot of people who are not, and that's okay. But it's just because it's very complex. So we have to be careful about who is treating what, and being really honest with our clients about if we can help them with the challenges that they're, you know, coming to us for.
Yeah, absolutely, girl. So we are doing a part 2. If you followed a couple weeks ago, we did do Thriving After an Eating Disorder with Miss Casey Royer, Found Wanderer Jewelry. And now we're doing a part 2, because I know that Hillary is very, very passionate. She is about this topic. She is an advocate about this. And I just feel like, you know, eating disorders come in so many different forms. And this is something that is just so prevalent in this world, and women feeling as though that they have to look a certain way. And with that pressure comes extremely unhealthy mindsets and behaviors. And to achieve this look that we all, you know, think that will bring us people that desire us and acceptance. So I'm happy to continue this topic, because I definitely think it needs to be talked about more. And I appreciate you doing this with us. So Hillary, tell us a little bit about your story, and why does this topic resonate with you so much?
That is a long story, and I'll shorten it. But this topic resonates with me so much because I am personally recovered from eating disorders. And through my personal recovery and my experience of trying to find a provider and trying to find a support system, and in trying to find people who understood my struggle, and in trying to learn more about what it is that I was going through, because there's not a lot of professionals who are super equipped to treat them. I kind of did a lot of that myself. I taught myself so much about the illness. I, did my own research, and I'm so blessed to have had a provider with experience treating eating disorders. And when I was able to reach full recovery, which I thought was impossible for most of my life, I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to use this, and I want to use this journey of where God has brought me through, and I just want to do that for other people. And I just really radically believed that I could, and that's the position that I'm in now. And it's like a dream come true. That's mainly the people that I work with are people in recovery from eating disorders.
That is the definition of pain into purpose,
Mhm.
literally. So when did it start for you? I'm very curious. Was there a particular thing that triggered the eating disorder? While you were in your healing journey, what did you discover about that?
So, again, kind of it's a long story.
It's a lot.
So I like to think, I mean, first off, I guess I'll say eating disorders are like biopsychosocial illnesses. There are lots and lots and lots of ways that we can trace this back to something and say this must have contributed to this. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about all of the things that kind of were the perfect storm for me developing an eating disorder, I had the genetic component for sure, just my temperament and my natural who I am, just kind of my natural temperament, and kind of an addictive personality almost, along with the genetic component, along with an environmental component. I have the most beautiful mother in the world, but I had a mother who struggled with an eating disorder. Okay. So there's that. And then I also say like genetics, temperament, trauma, environment. I also had some trauma under there. And then also environment, we look at the environment that we're in right now with social media, period. Like that's all that needs to be said.
Yes, that's all that needs to be said.
Exactly. And that just creates such a, my gosh, difficult environment to be a woman and to have a body, like point blank, period. So all of those things contributed to me developing an eating disorder. And it was probably, I was like 19 when I like developed my illness, first onset of my illness, and then really bottomed out with that around 2021, and then kind of started to see some changes and to start to recover. It's been a very long process, but yeah, that's just kind of a short little timeline.
So it's fairly still new.
I mean, I'm 28. I'm 28 now, so I would say that it's new. I mean, it's new-ish. I don't know. Yeah. I think when we talk about whether it's people who struggle with drug addiction, people who struggle with alcoholism, people who have depression, people who struggle with severe anxiety, people who've had an eating disorder, it really is a lifelong commitment to maintaining recovery. So I've been at this for 8 years now. You know, I consider myself to be very much like recovered, but I think it's an ongoing commitment, of course.
Did you say 2021 was when it bottomed out, or when you were 21?
When I was 21.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. I heard that wrong. Okay, no, you're okay. So it's not new.
Yes. Yeah. When I
okay.
20. Yeah.
Okay. So with that being said, I like that you stated it's interesting because I automatically go to what's the trauma. That's just how my mindset is. And I think just personally with what I've been through, that's what I've had to do. But for you, you gave that it could be in its environment. It also genetic component. What does that exactly mean when you say genetic component?
So when I say genetic component, I mean basically, in simple terms, like runs in the family. You know, family members have had the same issue. You know, when you hear about, and there's so much like that applies for people who are recovering from alcohol or drug addiction or who have experienced that also applies with eating disorders in the exact same way. Like, you know, I will talk about, well, my grandfather was an alcoholic. Yeah. So I know that I'm super, super vulnerable to that, and so I've chosen not to drink. I mean, it's that type of thing. It's as far as running in the family and just kind of that gene being passed down. I mean, there's genetic research that has been done, and I actually participated in some genetic research late 2020 or early 2021. That a massive study coming out looking at genetics and eating disorders. So when I say that, I just mean running in the family, having family history.
Okay. What would you say to someone that is watching this and currently struggling with an eating disorder and feeling the same way, like what you said, like it will be impossible to be able to overcome this?
Yeah. And that's a hard one. I try to think of like what would I say to me, and I don't know. That's one of those where it's like I I prepare for the question and then here I am.
That's okay.
What I would say to me. What I would say to me is that even if you have to seek it out a little harder, there is a community that's there for you. And there are people who are like you. And there are people who understand you, and you're not the only one. And you may have to, like I said, seek that out a little bit harder versus, you know, there's so many local AA, NA meetings, like all of these things. That community is really easily accessible. That's just one that I know off the top of my head that's very accessible. And the eating disorder community is not as accessible. That's something you really have to seek out. And a lot of times the only one that's available is virtual. But I have made so many virtual friends in the eating disorder community. Wonderful, wonderful women. Now, this is not a woman's illness, but in the case of the friends I've made, wonderful women who live in other parts of the country, Washington State, Oregon, New York, and I've never met them face to face, but they're a huge part of my life because I met them in the online eating disorder community.
So what was the first thing that you did? Was it something that was noticeable that your family recognized? Was it something that you weren't willing to admit? What did that look like when you had gotten to the point of starting to receive help for that?
So it really is like a slippery slope, I would say, because it typically starts with something like, and it's not caused by dieting, although that's a big predictor, but I mean, it typically starts with something like, I'm just going to get in the gym more, or I'm just going to go on a diet, or I'm just going to slim down a little. I mean, it typically starts with a super innocent motive, you know, seemingly, and it is a slippery slope. But I know for me, it was like, I'm just going to start exercising and changing the way that I eat. And it was almost, and I know that this is not how it happened, but it was almost as if overnight I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not okay. Like I'm sick. I mean, I can't control this anymore. It's not a choice anymore. And I'm sick. And I don't know how I got here. That was very much how it felt for me. So I knew it was a slippery slope, but it felt like just a, just a crash, you know?
Right.
Like such an innocent, I'm just gonna diet and work out. And then I woke up and I was so sick and I had no control over it. And it was really scary. But when I realized that I was really sick and had no control over it, I was okay with admitting it. I think that in the beginning, like, I still wanted to hold on to my eating disorder.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, was it hard to let go of?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
That control.
Yes, and a very normal part of recovery is grieving the loss of it. Even though you know it was something that was killing you, you grieve the loss of something that while it caused pain, kept you from a lot of other pain, you know, for a very long time, and met a lot of needs for you. And whether that was a adverse way of meeting needs, absolutely, it's not a productive way of meeting needs, whether, you know, physical, spiritual, emotional, whatever. But everything that people do meets needs, and eating disorders meet needs in adverse ways, but they do. So yeah, you very much grieve it. And it, even if you know that you want to recover and you want to give it up, it's really difficult.
What was the one thing that came to your mind when you decided, okay, I'm gonna go to the gym a little bit more, I'm gonna start dieting? Was it you wanted to lose weight, or was it that you were struggling with an insecurity, like of how you looked?
I can honestly say that, and I mean, it's, you know, it's hard to say, but I mean, it's just the truth. I can honestly say that I hated myself and I hated my body from the time I was aware that I had a body. And I think that I had always looked for validation and healing that I thought my body was keeping me from. So I thought, okay, well, naturally that's the fix. Like, I fixed my body, I fixed the problem. And so, yeah, I would just say a desire to lose weight, I guess I would say, after feeling like I had lived in such a different body than all my friends my whole life. Looking back now, wasn't all that different, but to me it was. So
yeah, it's a very hard world out there when it comes to women and appearance. And like you said, with Instagram and social media, let's just go there, okay?
Yeah.
Because it needs to be talked about. And I think a lot of women want to pretend like they're okay because we don't want to admit it. And it's hard. It is hard to love yourself when we are constantly being pushed, like with these images of what beauty is and what men expect and what, you know, is accepted. And it's just not attainable unless you do the surgery route. Let's just be real. It's not. And so it's causing so many women to feel as though they're not enough unless they get that done.
Right.
I know I personally really struggled with this.
Mm-hmm.
When I had gained like 25 pounds, which to me was a big deal because I'm short and petite.
Right.
In 2020, I probably talked about surgery for a year. I'm just going to be real.
Yeah.
I was looking up surgeons all the time. I was so angry with how I looked, angry with the fact that here I thought I had gone to a point where I know I'm more than my looks, but then here I am again. It's this constant thing that like women are having to wake up every day and have that conscious choice and decision that we know that we are enough.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And it's some days it just seems so hard. And for me, getting into the gym at first, honestly, was I need to lose this weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to work through that mental, unhealthy, toxic mindset that I had. And the more I started following body positive women on social media, like I really changed what I was following.
Yes.
And that makes a difference because that's what's going to pop up on your explore page is what you are looking at and following. So when you go to social media, like I have like positive quotes, I have TEDx speakers, I have authors, and I have body positivity. So that's what I see now. And I was like, wow, this makes such a difference. We have to be so cautious of what we allow into our minds, right? But I just remember like talking to my fiance and I'm like, this is such an unhealthy mindset that I have, but it is so ingrained in me. Mm-hmm. It is so hard. And I remember I'd be at the gym and I'd be like, remember, Michelle, like you're not doing this to lose weight. You're doing this to be healthy.
Yeah.
And Hillary, I can honestly say within the last couple of months, I have gotten to a point where I feel as though I understand that healthy mindset of fitness and health and nurturing your body. I don't use the word diet ever. I hate that word. But it's still a process.
It is.
And I don't think women really think about just how toxic their mindset really is because it's been ingrained into us since we were young, so young.
And here's the thing, Michelle, you're so right. And that's why I want women to not get frustrated with themselves when they know a certain thing up here but can't seem to feel it here, or just can't seem to grasp like I am more than this, I am more than this, I am more than this, because things that have been that ingrained from the time we could walk and talk, which when you talk about that environment piece and you talk about media, or you talk about maybe projection of other women and their body image issues or insecurities onto us, projecting that onto us from the time we were little, If something is that ingrained, you don't make progress unless you unlearn it. Like you have to,
So true.
is unlearning. And there's been so
Mm.
much talk in the last several years about being anti-racist, right? So we look at that and we look at the commitment to anti-racism, and we have to unlearn anything that is subconscious or unconscious or that was implied in childhood. Like that is an active unlearning, right? Is being anti-racist, unlearning any racism that has been embedded in us. And it is the
Even
same.
if they say like we're not racist, even if
Right.
we are totally not.
Right.
That is true. Like we can't be ignorant to the things that have been ingrained in us since we were little.
So young. And it's an active unlearning. You have to. I mean,
Yeah.
don't be frustrated with yourself. It is an active unlearning process that you have to put effort into, participate in, and really take a hard look at yourself in the mirror sometimes and be active about it. We don't unlearn anything that's that ingrained by just hoping that one day it sinks in. It's active work. It's real work.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you have put into place for you to protect your mind?
Oh, that's a really good question. So one of the ones that you already acknowledged, which is social media feeds. So all of that is stored in our subconscious, like every single bit of it. If you talk to somebody who has a career in marketing, they will tell you all of the different subliminal ways that companies market toward their product to make you buy it. It's all stored in your subconscious. It's the same with everything that we look at on social media. So completely changing my feed. If something makes me feel bad about myself, immediately it's removed. Sometimes reality TV is a thing. I love trash reality TV, but there's one body type on reality TV, and sometimes it literally just bums me out and makes me sad. So I'm like,
I was literally, because Joe and I like The Bachelor. He won't admit it, but he does. And he's like, oh, it's on. Like, he's the one that reminds me it's on. So while we're watching it, I told him, I have said that on multiple occasions, why does every girl have the same body type on this show? They all have the same body type.
Because what subliminal message does that send? There's one type of woman that deserves love. Seriously, I mean, that's literally some people might say, oh, that's extreme. Nobody's saying that. Okay, look around. Like all the dating shows, yeah, everything like that. It's like, and I'm not single now. I'm in an incredibly beautiful, healthy relationship. But when I was still single, that is the subliminal message that you get. There's one type of woman that deserves love, and I don't look like her. And that feels terrible.
Yeah, it does. It's crazy how we have love has been attached to appearance. I was thinking this morning in my meditation and prayer about how the fact that kids, when I take Destiny for a walk, she looks at everything as valuable. She'll see a stick and it's amazing to her. She'll see a rock and I'll be like, honey, it's just a rock. And she's like, no, it's beautiful.
Not to her.
And I know. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And then I start to think a little bit deeper. I'm like, okay, that rock is unique, and then she'll walk by flowers and smell the flowers and just the beauty of nature and simplicity. And that is, God says to have a childlike mind and faith. And there's something that just happens to us. The world happens to us. The older we get, we lose that. We become desensitized to beauty and what life's purpose really is. And so she, that is a reminder, is how kids can literally look at anything and see beauty in anything. And it's just a great reminder that we need to remember that beauty is more than, shiny things.
And it is, when you talk about your daughter, when you talk about Destiny and how beautiful it is that she thinks, sticks are so cool and
I know
so neat and things like that. It's because she hasn't been told otherwise, which is good parenting. So,
oh, thank you.
It's also because, it's just part of being young. I mean, she hasn't been exposed to enough of enough of this, social media and media, to think any different. And so, I mean, to see things through the eyes of a child,
Yeah.
is a interesting perspective all the time.
It is, and it can help us see ourselves in a beautiful way when we look in the mirror. If we take aside, like, put aside the things that have been said to us, put aside the way we've been treated, put aside what society says is beauty. When you wake up in the morning and when you look in the mirror, what do you see? Like, are you able to see past, this is beautiful. You are beautiful, but you're also so much more than your outer. This is fleeting. This goes, this fades. It all does eventually. And at the end of, like, your lifetime, what matters is who you are as a person, your character, letting your beauty shine from within. And in my time of learning this, because I really did find so much of my identity in my appearance. And it didn't help, when you come from a background of stripping and dancing, that's all that matters,
Right.
So it's like that kind of that really morphed my mindset of what beauty is.
Yeah.
And in unlearning that, I make it a goal to, when I look in the mirror, I don't say I love this about me, about anything with my appearance, but I focus on my qualities. So every day I focus on what are the qualities I want to have, what are the things within me that I want to strive for. And that is something that can help you if you are struggling with loving yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like what you are looking for, you will find. And I think that's just pretty much a universal type of thing. I mean, if you are looking for things to love and praise about yourself other than what's on the outside, like, you're going to find it. If you're on the highway looking for a red car, you're going to find it. If whatever you are looking for with intent, you are going to find. And I know for me, like you're saying, qualities and things that make you internally beautiful. But I think it's so interesting in the unlearning and in that process, what also physically becomes beautiful to us that maybe wasn't before.
Wow.
Me, so many things that were physically, like, couldn't even stand before are genuinely beautiful to me now because they symbolize something else, or they symbolize my recovery, or they symbolize my growth. I'm recovered, or my whatever the case may be. I don't know. You see things physically that also have a different meaning and that you find beautiful after a certain time of all this unlearning.
That is very true. The more you start to learn what self-love is, and the more you love who you are, the more it will then reflect, I think, on the outside as well, in how you just view yourself in general, and in how you take care of yourself. My twin sister, and she's very open about this, but she struggled with bulimia, and she did not take care of herself.
Yeah.
And it just showed, and now, she looks so different than how she did before, but it's not a weight thing. It's just she has learned what self-love means. And so physically everything changed for her. She just shines now, and it's true that your inner belief system of yourself will manifest in your actions, and how you see yourself and how others see you. I think, like, it will manifest on the outside.
I agree. And, I think, kind of piggybacking off of that too, we look at motives for what we do. I mean, going to the gym or exercising in and of itself, it's not toxic at all. It's not
right.
Like, what is the motive? Eating vegetables and drinking water in and of itself, that's actually really good for you. But what is the motive?
Yeah.
So, too, I think when you get, and just, talking about your sister's story and just the challenge of taking care of herself and like things, and it's an interesting journey, but I think things that, for example, in my story, things that I once struggled with before and being part of a disordered part of like my illness are now, after all of the unlearning and all of the healing, like behaviors that help keep me healthy. But it's like all about the motivation.
Wow. Yeah, the motivation and the perspective of it all. I can't imagine, it's weird. I'm just gonna be real. I can't imagine going to the gym and not having a lose weight mentality.
I've just now gotten there, like within the last year. And I started doing workouts with a trainer who is very, she's wonderful. Her name's Lindsay McCallum. She's a good friend of mine. She's just a wonderful, wonderful, intelligent human being who has also taken time to listen and learn from my end of eating stuff and look at how she may encounter that in the fitness industry. And she's very vigilant of that. And she, for that reason, brings something to the fitness industry that very, 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 very few people have. And that's just that awareness of how working out can be really disordered for a lot of people. But she has helped me reframe fitness and working out. Really, a lot of times I just call it movement. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
your body.
I use really odd language sometimes, but I also think that language matters.
It does, yes.
The way that you refer to things matters. So she has helped me reframe that so much. And honest to goodness, the past year or so, I've literally gone to the gym to see how much weight I could lift. And that is like the most freeing thing I've ever experienced. And Lindsay helped give that back to me.
I love that. It is important to know your motive. And although there's nothing wrong with wanting to lose a few pounds, I don't think that's necessarily a toxic mindset. But because, just for health in general. But knowing your motive of it, is it because you need to, and you need to take care of yourself,
right,
be healthier, or is it because you want to get attention? Is it because you think that it's going to bring love?
Is it because you hate yourself and you're broken and to heal things like on the inside? Because you can only heal from the inside out, not the outside in. So, and a lot of the working out.
Oh, that was good.
You can only heal from the inside out, not the outside in. And a lot of, not all, like you said, but a lot of trying to control our weight, trying to control our body, all of that. A lot of that is trying to heal from the outside in, and it just won't work. It'll never work. It'll never work.
Wow. That's so true. Wow. I love that, Hillary. That was very, very powerful.
Yeah.
So what is, let's say, one main thing that you want to leave with our viewers, especially the ones that may be struggling with loving themselves?
There's another one of those. It's like you can prepare for like.
I know there's so many. There's so much you can say. Like, it's a loaded question.
So much I could say. But honestly, I think one of the things I would say is that you can never heal from the outside in. You have to heal from the inside out, always, 100% of the time. And I would say that the Lord came and became flesh and died for you, not so that you could live your life a slave to hating yourself. So, yeah, I think I would leave those two things. There's a lot I would leave, but if I had to choose, that's probably the two.
That's such a prison to be in. And let's aside from, eating disorders in general, loving yourself is very hard to achieve. Like, it's very hard to get to the place of loving yourself.
It is.
It does start with asking yourself the hard questions, figuring out where it is stemming from, doing the inner work, figuring out who you are. And like I've said in almost all of these interviews, it's so important to journal. It's so important to, whether it's having time alone with yourself, with God, or seeking a therapist or even a mentor, somebody that you admire and look up to. Talking these things out will really help you to start to understand maybe why you struggle with self-love. It'll help you really be able to dissect all of that, so then you can learn what that looks like and experience that. We all deserve to experience self-love because we're all unique and amazing, and we are all created with beautiful purposes. And so many people are not walking in it because they don't love themselves. And it's so sad.
It is sad.
No, it's so sad.
I see you getting emotional about that, and I don't blame you, because you have had, while our stories of coming to love ourselves are very different, they're both really compelling testimonies, if I do say so myself. So that's clearly something you feel so passionate about. And having a daughter too, I think that just magnifies it probably.
Absolutely.
And I don't have kids yet, but I do have a younger sister who's 17, and she is a lot like my child. And honestly, she was the number one reason why I was willing to try to even try to get rid of my illness and recover, because I was so hell-bent and determined that she was not going to grow up and see just somebody who was sick. Like, I was determined that even if I didn't want even if I didn't want recovery for me at the time, or even if I didn't want better for me, I wanted better for her. So
absolutely. We have to take action, and we have to be willing to do the hard work, because guys, this life is so short. And we were not created. One of my chapters in my first book, Campaigning the Power, is called The Walking Dead. And so many people are walking dead inside, carrying pain and in this prison that they feel that they'll never be able to get out of. And it almost becomes normal to where they can't imagine living a free life. And I think that's just in general in life, in so many areas where women and men are in toxic relationships, they're in abusive relationships, they are constantly being put down, and so they really start to believe that they are not lovable. They really start to believe that they don't have a purpose, to where then they just almost become like the Walking Dead. In general, with things that we go through, this life is hard, and so many people have experienced intense trauma and intense pain, and it can be so overwhelming and debilitating to where it can feel as though there is no hope.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
I just want to tell you guys that there is hope. And I hope that you're able to see that there is hope in these conversations, because you're an example of that, Hillary, of how you felt that way, but you did find hope, you did find restoration, you did find healing, and now you are thriving.
And you're a shining example of that too, because it takes it to know it. I appreciate seeing that in me, but it takes it to know it. So that is a beautiful compliment from one of the most resilient people that I know.
Thank you, girl. Thank you. I really want to encourage our viewers. I think just especially women, because we are women and we understand the societal pressures that we face. If you are struggling with loving yourself, first of all, you're not alone. Secondly, it is a journey. thirdly, like Hillary said, it starts from within. It starts from healing within. Please know that you have a purpose. You have value, no matter what you've been through, no matter what people have said to you, no matter how many times you've been bullied or told that you're less than or made to feel less than or like your voice doesn't matter. It does. And please, please know that God has you here for a reason. God created you for a reason.
Yes.
And it can be very hard finding what that purpose is. But you know what? Every day we can find purpose in something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it really is, like you said, a mindset, and being willing to unlearn all of the toxic things that have been drilled in your head since you were a kid. Hillary, what's like one thing that you can remember was something that you had to unlearn?
I had to unlearn. I know what I'm trying to say, but let me think of like how to articulate it. I had to unlearn that my feelings about myself. Sorry, someone is mowing outside.
It's okay.
My feelings about myself from day to day actually cannot always be trusted.
Wow. Yes. Feelings lie to us.
I can trust myself, but my feelings about myself, or sometimes my thoughts about myself, are not necessarily the God's honest truth.
That is so good, Hillary. That is so true. We are so quick to listen to our feelings and take it on as truth and identity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I work with people all the time who, just because they have a feeling or just because they have a thought, they assume and live like it's true. And wow, that'll get you in trouble. And yeah. I know that people can't help it. That's the way their minds fire, and that's the way their minds work. I'm one of those people, had to unlearn it. But I mean, if we treat every single one of our thoughts or feelings like the God's honest truth, like, good luck. I mean, you know,
yeah,
we're going to be in trouble. So
yeah.
Yeah, you do not have to grab or take ownership of every thought or feeling that you have.
That is so good. And to know our truth. So literally, like, having something in place that you know you can replace with those feelings.
Yes.
So what does that look like for you? How do you handle when you have those bad feelings about yourself? How do you reverse that mindset then?
So different things work for different people. I'm not suggesting that my way is the way or is the only way. It's just kind of what I discovered worked for me. But I mean, number one, I say it and I name it. And for me, it's like, I'm having eating disorder thoughts. Like, they're not my own. They're an outside external thing that is affecting me, and I might be thinking them, but they're not my own. They're the thoughts of an eating disorder. They're the thoughts of my past. They're the thoughts, they're those thoughts. So, I mean, first I call it out and I name it, and I will tell somebody who I love and trust, I'm having eating disorder thoughts. And sometimes I'll go into what those are. Sometimes I won't. But I also am someone who, something that works for me, and we actually have like a big fancy name for it in the therapy world, but like, I go based off of what I've educated myself about, and I tell myself, like, I'm smarter than this illness, and I'm smarter than the eating disorder, and I know what it tries to do, I know what it tries to tell me, and I know the way that it lies, and I know how it lies, and I know what it sounds like when it lies, and smarter than it. So I remember its tactics. It's almost like I'm, talking about a person. I remember its tactics and its ways and the ways that it comes after me. And I really remind myself of those. And I also remind myself that I'm strong enough to sit through discomfort. It's not going to kill me. I can be uncomfortable without going and engaging in a behavior that's going to maybe relieve discomfort or pain for 30 minutes, and then I'm left having to do it again.
Mm.
So sitting in discomfort's not going to kill me.
Mm. Knowing your triggers, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. Knowing what that is, and then having a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that you can do, you know, in your journaling time or in your time talking to your mentor or therapist. That has been so helpful for me just in my journey, is having a plan, like having words that I know I can speak over myself if I'm feeling that way, having truth of who I am and whose I am, and reminding myself of the things that I know God's called me to do when I am feeling like you know, what is my purpose or what is my reason for being here, you know, when I'm feeling down. And then also knowing the things that trigger me, knowing, and sometimes I won't even know exactly what it was,
right?
But I'll just be like, okay, acknowledging it. Like you said, calling it out, call it out, name it.
Sometimes you only know triggers after they've happened,
Yes.
But that's okay. You can still identify it as, oh, I know what just happened. It was a trigger. I got triggered. Like, you know, you don't know those before they happen. That's fine. That would be like saying that we can, you know, have a crystal ball and life. I mean, we can't. So we don't always know triggers before they happen. They happen, and then we have to name them, and that's okay.
And yes, absolutely. That's okay. It's okay to still have moments like that. Like healing does not mean you're not going to have those moments still. It's just how you handle it.
I'm a therapist, and I work with other people struggling for a living, and I do well at it, and I still have struggles myself. 100%. Most likely, if you're going to a therapist, that therapist goes to therapy.
Yeah. They say that every leader has a leader.
Oh yeah.
And anybody that is leading, of course, they have somebody else that they're talking to. That they're, you know, it's okay to be human. I think sometimes we forget that like if we're healed, or if we're at this particular place, then we can't struggle. We can't have hard days. We can't have emotions. No, that's not true. Like, give yourself grace. It's okay. But definitely calling it out what it is, and then putting steps forth so that you can continue on with your day and continue thriving and shining and doing the things that you need to do that day.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. You're so right.
You're so right.
We're both so right.
Well, girl, you dropped so many gems tonight. Thank you.
You're so welcome. I'm so glad that this is going to be available, like, on your page, my page. I don't know. I've like one time, but it's going to be available for more people to look at. So
yes, absolutely. So I will be posting this once we get off. And tell us your social media. Guys, please go follow her. Go join her on her journey. Let her know how today helped you guys. Show her some love. What is your Instagram handle, Hillary? My
Instagram is altered, ALTAR.ED. I have it private just because in the nature of my work and what I do, but I have no problem, you know, approving followers, sharing content with people who've watched this. That's absolutely fine. So it's ALTAR.ED. That's my.
Thank you so much for doing this, girl.
Thank you so much.
I really admire everything that you said tonight. But you know what? We're on this self-love journey.
We are. And to keep walking it alongside you.
Oh, you too, girl. You too. And guys, please know that I have my book, Girl Thriving. Like I say every time we do an interview. This is what has inspired these interviews, okay? So if you are looking to start your healing journey, if tonight really resonated with you and you don't know where to start, my book will literally walk you through step by step. It's a 31-day journal to start your healing journey, and ask yourself those hard questions. Figure out your triggers. Work through that step by step. So you can get this in the link in my bio. And
the perfect starting place, and it's a perfect thing to discuss with your friends, with your mentor, with your therapist. It's a perfect tool to use with others as well.
Thank you, girl. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you guys that joined us. I love you, girl. Have a great night. Bye, everyone.